Today's episode is all about crowdfunding. Now, for the 6 or 7 of you that have not heard of this, crowdfunding is the idea that you can get a lot of people to put a little bit of money in to build up your goal to finance a project. I don't know of too many filmmakers who haven't at least flirted with the idea of trying a crowdfunding campaign when trying to fund a film. In theory, it sounds great, especially if you have a lot of friends, but in practice, it doesn't go nearly as well for most people as you would think it would. One of the things that gets people encouraged to start a fundraiser is all their friends telling them how much they support their work. Now, it's real easy to take that literally. It's a very pleasant thought to think that everyone you know is 100% behind you and would each pitch in as much as they could afford to help you get this movie done because they all want to see it and they all want to see you succeed. It's usually on this thought that somebody will start a crowdfunding campaign. Now, these are usually hosted by companies such as Indiegogo or GoFundMe or places like that. The average campaign is between 30 to 90 days, although the sites will usually encourage you to keep your campaign short, like about 30 days or so. That doesn't sound like a lot of time, and to be honest with you, it really isn't. And if you haven't done a lot of prep work and gotten a lot of commitments from people, and I mean solid commitments, you're going to find it fizzling out before it's even really began. Of course, right about this time is when you learn that everybody who told you how much they supported you didn't mean monetarily. You're going to find that a lot of your friends will like your page, or maybe a few of them will share your page around on social media to try to get the word out, but you'll find that very few of them will actually put money in. It's usually after the campaign's been going for a while that somebody recruits as many friends as they can to help get the word out. You're no longer able to depend on your circle of friends, so now you've got to reach out to strangers. And that's even harder because people who have no idea who you are noticing that not even your friends are supporting this project. The idea here is that your friends know people that you don't, so if they're supporting it, maybe their friends will support something that they're supporting. Again, this is difficult when those friends have not contributed themselves, but at this point, you take what you can get. This is usually the point where you start seeing strangers approach you and make offers, but they're going to want something in return, and this is where we're going to start talking about perks, which are incentives that people put in order to try to entice people to contribute to their project. Generally, when you start a crowdfunding page, it is a page on one of these websites that talks a little bit about your movie and mentions any of the good points that you have, anything that you've already had lined up, which is sometimes part of your cast, or at the very least, a synopsis of the script or the story. Then there are things known as perks, which are meant to entice people to donate larger amounts. These can range from everything from, give $1 and get a special thanks on the credit, to give $1,000 and become an executive producer. I've seen all kinds of people get creative with their perks, and some of them are pretty ingenious, but then there are others that I think are really, really poor choices that are usually the mark of somebody who is really desperate at this point. The terrible thing is that perks can usually be added as the campaign goes on, so you start seeing those signs of desperation as a campaign is winding down. One of the worst ones I've seen is an offer to have a starring role in the movie if you donate a large amount of money. I can certainly understand how this might work for some people. I know plenty of actors who would pretty much give their right arm, let alone $500 or so, in order to get a named role in a movie. And for actors who don't have a lot of experience but do have a large savings account, these kind of perks look really attractive. But they attract all kinds of people. And when you have a perk like this, you're pretty much locked into whoever forks out that money first. And you have no idea what you're going to get. Something I've seen on more than one occasion is the entirely wrong person being cast in a leading role because they paid their way into it. Or worse, they had a parent pay their way into it. I've seen what could have been really great films turn to crap real fast because of this kind of casting. As a crowdfunding campaign starts winding down and has not been very successful, it's not uncommon for the filmmaker to start trying to rationalize why this might be. You might even fool yourself thinking that all your friends are saving up and they're going to surprise you at the very end with your entire funding. Or you might start wondering why your friends have abandoned you. It can go either way at this point, but generally speaking, if a crowdfunding campaign has not reached at least its midway mark within the first 2 weeks, it is very unlikely to get funded completely. Now here's where people run into a whole lot of trouble. Some of these crowdfunding platforms have an option where whoever's raising the money can keep whatever money has been raised, regardless of if they've reached their goal or not. Now this type of funding can make people very leery, because it means one of two things. If a campaign closes and very little has been raised, they've pretty much just donated money to whatever. There's no obligation from the filmmaker to actually make the film. The other thing it can do, this happens with filmmakers that are far more honest, is that they'll consider themselves committed to making the film no matter what kind of funding they've ended up getting. While this is noble, it can also really put a damper on things for you, because it's very hard to make a film that's projected at costing $350,000 on a little over $200. Once a campaign is ended and it hasn't made anywhere near its goal, at this point it's decision time. Do you do the right thing and refund everybody and just try again at a later time? Do you take the money and stick it in a savings account and hope that at some point you'll be able to raise the rest of the funds? Or do you attempt to make the film with what you've got? It's a difficult decision to make, and there are some filmmakers who just say screw it and take the money and then go on vacation. But for the most part, the people who are putting up these crowdfunders really do want to make a film, so they have a very tough decision to make, and they do feel at this point that they've pretty much been abandoned by everybody who claimed to have been so supportive of them. Now, the problem with going through with the production, even if it's vastly underfunded, is that you are very likely to make a lot of people upset. You're going to have your big-time funder who put up the majority of the funds in exchange for a favor, who's going to be angry about the quality of the film. You're going to have the critics tearing it apart left and right, which is going to upset your cast and crew. And you're going to have anybody else who donated to it that happens to see it wondering why the heck they put in money for something that was done so badly. It's an all-around terrible situation to try to make a film on a lot less than it should be made for. And then here's the kicker. You get the film done, you've done it on a fraction of what it should have been made for, you're already feeling like crap about it, you know it's a terrible film, and then those friends, the ones that you didn't hear a peep from while you were trying so hard to raise the proper money for the film, will inevitably ask you, hey, where can we see your movie? For free, of course. Because somebody who's not going to even throw in $1 in your crowdfunder is certainly not going to spend $4.99 to rent it on Amazon. And that's one of the things that really can put dampers on friendships when you're a filmmaker. So whenever your friends tell you, hey, we're really supportive of you, take it with a grain of salt, because nothing will test that like a crowdfunder, and most of the time you're going to be really disappointed to learn the results of that. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Unconnected Filmmaker, and if you found this information useful and want to be notified when the next video premieres, just hit that subscribe button. Or if you have anything you'd like to see an episode on, feel free to comment below. See you next time, and keep those cameras rolling.